Okay, today we're going to talk about subtotal, which is, again, a more mature alternative to sum, but it is so much more powerful than that. I'm going to show you an example of how you can use it with other functions when you're dealing with more dynamic tables. It comes in so handy. Check it out. Okay, for those of you who are joining me for the first time, this table is basically a table I created of store locations for particular sales that I wanted to compare between 2 different years. This is like a 2-day sale that happened in Orlando, Miami store, Palm Beach, Coral Gables store, during the years, same time period, during the years of 2017 and 2018. Totally random. But what we have here, again, this is the table that I had included in my blog post. But what I've done here is that I've actually made this change. If those of you who have taken my intermediates starter course, you'll recognize that what I've done here is I basically just created a data validation form, data validation drop-down list, excuse me. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and do a subtotal here, but what I have done is that I have created the subtotal sheet right here, and you can get this particular these codes, these function codes, at this site, and I'll put this in a special place for you guys to click on it in the YouTube, in the YouTube description and everything, so you can take a look at it. But this is the function code table on which subtotal is based, or what it uses in order to pull whatever function you want. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually modify a little bit, because when you realize that you can actually play around with it and add some more functions to it, it becomes a little bit more interesting and a lot more powerful and more dynamic. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do subtotal, which is what we did similar to the other, and during the blog post was what I showed. And when we did this, we would hard code a 9 or a 1. For example, see here, if we want to do average, we put the code of 1. If we want to do product, we want to put a code of 6. But what I'm going to do here is I'm actually using this list. Oops, hold on a second. Let me actually show you the list first. This is the list that I'm going to be using. It's basically the same list as what I just showed you for the function codes. So if we wanted to change it up, we wanted to actually show the average, and it should be able to reflect the average. If we want to show the sum, we can reflect the sum. What I want to do is I want to actually base my subtotal function on that code in that drop-down list. So you go subtotal. And one of the things that you'll know, again, if you've taken my my starter course, my intermediate spreadsheet starter course, is that one of the functions that's very handy is called match. And since we're looking for a function code number in that first parameter, match automatically comes up as one of the first things, or should be one of the first things you think of. Let's go ahead and build the match statements. Let's go with match. Okay, so with match, we want to match what is in this drop-down list, come right here. And what do we want to match it against? We want to match it against the function right here. Of course, make sure you anchor it so that when you move it around, it doesn't shift. And of course, we want an exact match. That's going to be 0, so we close off the match section. Now that we've got that part, let's go ahead and show the sections we want to subtotal, which is going to be this part right here. Oops. Trying to close this up a little early. I forgot to put a comma. So then, okay. We got this. Again, anchor it. F4. And it's going to show an is and a, because this is blank. But once we put something in here, for example, the average, 705, which matches with what we had before. We want to put a sum. Let's see, the sum 8455, which again matches what we want to do before. So for something like this, match is perfect, or at least it seems to be. When we have a nice, neat array like this, it's great because everything matches. Average is 1, count is 2, so it all comes together. However, if we were to, for example, sort this a little differently, like for example, we go Z to A, right? So now average is still number 1 according to the code, but it's in a different position. When we come over here, we see that sum is 12. Obviously, that's not correct, because what match does is it match bases everything on the position. So what we want to do is we want to actually encase the match function into an index function. Index match is also a post that I went over, or I actually did, and I'll throw up that link on to that post as well, so you can get a better idea of the basics of an index match function formula. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to put in an index in between the subtotal and the match. But let's go ahead and kind of play with it and build it out first. Okay, so first let me copy and paste the match function here. And we're going to go ahead and just build it out and see what happens. So we have index. Okay, so now the reference. The reference is where we're going to actually take a look and say, okay, I want to put in, or I want to, the information that I want has to come from the code part. Remember to anchor it, because the match has the function part. We have this one, then we're going to put in match, and the column in this case is optional. You don't have to put it in, but you can if you want to. So let's go ahead. Actually, I took up a little bit too much out of this. So we have the index, and then we have the match function that's pointing to our drop-down list, and then also telling us that we want to take a look at the information here. And based on this, we see that we want to do a sum, and sum is 9, which is correct. So we're getting the right number from this. So if we happen to encase the subtotal in this function, it should work. So let's go ahead and rebuild actually the subtotal. 1 second, let me copy this. Let's copy this index completely so we can have this. Alright, let's go with index, or equal subtotal. And in place of the function code there, we're going to put in that index match combination, right? And then we're going to put in the section that we want to total, or we want to do the calculations on. Of course, make sure we anchor it. And we already see here that we have 8455. Okay, so again, if we want to go ahead and say we want to do standard deviation 356, because that's right. Say we want to do the minimum, which is 61. So again, match is a good, match looks like it's good, but if that table that you're referencing has a different sort pattern, it's going to create an error. So what you want to do is you want to encase the match inside an index and then put it in the subtotal. That's what makes it more powerful. Now, one little thing, it's a pet peeve of mine that actually I like to kind of fix before anything happens. One thing, and I mentioned it before, but let's take a look at this right here. See, this gives me an NA. It's not that it's wrong, it's correct, but what I like is that I'd like to actually not have something like that, because it looks like there's a problem with the sheet when it just, the information is just not there yet. So what I like to do And this is something, of course, if you'd like to continue, that'd be great. It's up to you. I like to encase my function formulas into conditional statements based on the error message. So in this case, I'll be getting an NA. So I'll be getting if is NA. So what this tells me, or what this says, that if an NA comes up in here, initially when you try that formula, you'll want to make sure that you put something else in there. So what I'm going to do is the if is NA just takes that entire value to make sure the subtotal is encased in the proper parentheses. And now you go ahead and say, okay, I want to put in like a 0. And the 0 is going to be a string, not a number yet. So that's true. So it's if is NA in this particular, from when you calculate this subtotal, if it comes out to be an NA, then in place of the NA you put a 0. Otherwise, you go ahead and you do the calculation. Excuse me, let me grab this. Yeah. You go ahead and you do the calculation for this. I think that should be, yes, that should be right. So see, it comes up as 0. When we go ahead and we add in the product, which is going to be a ridiculous number, it changes. Minimum $61. So again, that's a little error checking that I like to put in when I'm dealing with formulas that kind of pop up an error message in the first before I even enter any information. It just makes the sheet look a little cleaner and a little neater. But again, it's completely up to you, but it is just something that I prefer to do. So we covered basically how to do an index match inside a subtotal, and then we put all that inside an if a conditional is NA, which is kind of a lot of formula, a lot of functions and formulas, but it is done with the purpose of trying to keep the sheet nice and neat and clean. Okay, so that is subtotal. Go ahead, give it a try, practice, and enjoy. Have fun. Have a good one. Thanks for your time, everyone, and keep practicing.